All right. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to this webinar where we're going to take a look at different ways you can use your employee data to get a better understanding of your company and your workplace climate. I am Nassim Wasgari, a customer success and people specialist at Nailted, a startup who offers an employee engagement platform which allows you to evaluate and manage your employee engagement as an admin of a company. And joining us today is one of my previous teachers in my Masters of Talent Development and Human Resources, Mr. Miguel Angel Rodriguez Munoz, who's currently a managing partner and CEO at Open Room and a faculty associate at the Masters in TDHRs in IE School of Human Sciences and Technology. So if we can get Miguel to join us on the screen. Perfect.
Hello.
Hello, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Great. Okay, so before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone that you can ask a question at any point throughout this webinar through the Ask a Question button at the bottom of your screen. So just write whatever question you want, and you can vote on yours or other questions so that it pops up higher in the list, and we will address all of them at the end of the discussion we will have today. Right, so let's get started. I'm just going to share my screen. Great. Right, so this is the topic of the webinar, as I said. So we're just going to take a look at strategies and solutions that use data to evaluate diversity and engagement and motivation. And before going into that, I just wanted to go through a quick context of what does the digital workplace look like today. So as we all know, especially with the recent developments due to COVID and everything, technology has just been evolving at an ever-increasing rate. And many people have noticed, especially admins, that data is not well organized. The data they get isn't well organized, but they still have to make decisions based on that data. And unfortunately, they're not always well informed. So Miguel, what would you have to say about this bit of context?
Okay, thank you very much, Nassim. Okay, there is a new context. I think that is we call it. Let me share the screen also, Nassim. Let's see if you can guys see it. What we call it. We can say what we call it. And sorry, let me go like this. Hybrid model, the hybrid model that combines remote, flexible working and office-based working. So the pre-COVID primarily was office-based, and then now during the pandemic, and now we are on the post-COVID hybrid model exploration. Right now, a lot of companies are looking for get the data from this new model of interaction, and this hybrid model will also have a lot of implications. The implication that has to do with the location, will or you let the people work remotely all the time, sometime only when managers approve, time zones that someone in the company have to decide where you should consider some standard hours to work, or even time of work. Can people shift their job or hours per week, or employment relationship, the tools and norms needed to really get on this new hybrid model that we are living right now. Even inclusion of diversity is part of these new rules that the companies are getting in. So there is a lot of literature, and there is a lot of information about how the hybrid model works. But there is also I found some employee perspective that I find it really interesting in this link that you find over here. And the employees' perspective is like a lot of them, like 30% of the employees reported that they desire to work remotely on average 3 days per week. And also 47% report that feeling anxious about the post-pandemic work plans. Only 32% reporting plans are being clearly communicated. So there is a demand for people who clarify the situation of this hybrid model, because it's not something that we are used to, it's something new. And from the other side, you can see here the managers also are looking for more clarity in this. The manager, 70% of the manager wants their team back in the office, and this is something that is a confrontation. Is that two different models, and they feel only 40% of the managers survive feel comfortable working and helping their team through virtual means. That 60% is not really comfortable about this new hybrid environment that we are living, and there are only 40% of the employees reported feeling supported by the direct managers. So there is a gap here, and this is also something that we need to solve in the near future, because the hybrid model will be here to stay. And another a really interesting study from Accenture in this year's is say that we have like four different mindset of the workers today when they are coming to this hybrid model. Uh, Either you are pessimistic or optimistic, or you feel fatigued or energized. That you can see here the percentage of people that there are really only 42% are driven to this hybrid model and through the pandemic, but there are 31% that are disengaged and apathetic 50%. So there's a lot of problem to solve in the near future with this hybrid model that we are all living in. And to solve that problem, we will see a big shift following the Bersin research. It will be a big shift from HR dealing with the HR technology that we are all used to know, HR, LS, LMS, pay, compliance, to try to address also this work touch, what that they call a work touch, something that has to be with well-being, with family, with lifestyle, because this hybrid model is completely changing the way we actually work and feel. And there is a big problem in companies right now how we can go through this new hybrid model of working or workplace, but we need to use these new tools or a new approach of the tools to this new worktage, that they are more close to what the people do every day. An example, if we are doing training, so probably it's much more easy to do training on the same platform that the people are using for meetings and for managing projects, that instead of going to other type of platforms. So this merge of technology will try to solve the problem that I mentioned before with the technology.
Right, fantastic. Thank you very much. And before we get into the meat of the matter, let's give a bit more specific context. Um, so, what are the current, specific trends in digitalization and with remote work specifically, which is what kind of we've all been, everyone who's in the work world has been going through almost the same thing for the last couple of months to the last year. And it's basically just based on less physical interaction, which means that so many KPIs have to be rethinked because managers can't just evaluate their employees by just going to their office anymore. And also a lot of new emerging topics that have a lot of importance today can benefit a lot from data. So what do you think, Miguel, do these trends have to do with, data?
Okay, this trend has to do, as you mentioned, there is a lot of user cases that we can mention here. We can say that the less physical interaction is putting that managers need to connect in other way with the teams, and they need to less control and more guidance of teams, and helping them to go through the non-interaction of physical interaction. Also trying to solve problems like how to innovate, how to get this personal touch during this less physical interaction. The less physical interaction in the near future, I foresee that it will be not as in the middle of the pandemic, so we will have some balance going back to the office again. But there's something that will be on as a trend that it will be we will use, not even if we are in the face-to-face interaction, more of the tools that we are using right now during the pandemic to control projects and to meet with our teams. We will keep using it even in the post-pandemic and post-COVID scenario. So, and there is a need for, in the first place, I would say, more data organized, more organized data, more ways to monitor employees, as you mentioned. And for that, we will probably need more, different analytics tool that the one we are using right now. About the KPIs and how to rethink KPIs, absenteeism, overtime, task completion rate. Has to be rethink at the light of the new environment that we have, and also with new ways of getting this data that we need in order to take a consideration that we are living now. Let me share some ideas also here in this part.
Please.
I will try to share my screen again. I think this, no, this one, the one will be. And here hopefully you will guys see this from SAP. The solution for that, for this new environment and this new challenge, has to come from the people analytics field, or this is a very broad field, and there is a lot of people analytics. But I think that we need to shift from what for the reports that we are dealing right now, that is what has happened, to try to understand why this happened and what will happen in the future. So in marketing and in other functions of the enterprises of the company, right now the customer experience is measured on real time data. So at the same time, the pandemic give a lot of control and distribute the control over more close to what really the problem is, because you cannot centralize in the situation that we live. You need to give control to different people. So that's a big opportunity to actually try to collect and get data from this from the situation that we live, and try to model explanations and try to optimize the solution of what will be the best that could happen. That actually that will be a scenario that it will be really interesting in the near future. For me, the pandemic actually improved the moving on the new people analytic at the SAP people said, and that's bring a lot of really interesting ideas, and because there is a lot of room of improvement in this field. The first one, the research says that only 5% of the HR decisions are currently made using data. Again, we have a lot of data in HR, and we will go through in a minute. But decision based on data are really small if we compare with finance or marketing, that is rapidly transforming into the most data driving part of the business right now. Also, we tend to do and to use metrics that are relevant only for HR, instead of focusing on activity that will add value to the entire company. So that's some room for improvement also here, that our indicators and the way we actually manage HR data have to shift to a more business oriented and business information data. So we need to move from question to data, I would say, in that way. There is also an issue that we cannot forget, that is the data can be misinterpreted and misused, and also this is a really confidential data. We need to address all to comply with all the regulations, especially in Europe. So we need to create and safeguard data, and in order to share this data, you need to be more transparent and thoughtful of how we share that data. So if we are using information of data about, I don't know, some data about our of feedback of someone, 360 feedback, or we are using data of the employee about the feelings or the interpretation of a survey, we need to or even data that is really not that are in the system, that they are not really applied for, or the employee actually allows to use it. We need to actually be transparent of how we can go through this data. And another thing that we need to solve in the near future, we're using this data to leverage the hybrid workplace that we are living, is the try to fight the confirmation bias of "I told you so." This is the mind like to fast jump to conclusions using insufficient data. So when your company or your companies are beginning to be a more database company, that this data driven decision, you need to try to fight this confirmation bias that is on our mind. We want to think fast, and sometimes using data you need to go a little bit more in reflection, in analysis, in order to find really the valuable data that we need. And finally, even though it's true that the if your learning environment or your environment, the business environment, is predictable and you learn through consistency and you become an expert, you can decide correctly in seconds. But in the highly complex and uncertain environment that we are working now, algorithms are more accurate than experts. So we need to build the algorithms in order to create really good knowledge and good actions from that knowledge, because the complexity that we are living is not anymore suitable to rely only in the expert that will help us to make the best decision. So that's some of the consideration that we can find in the short term on this.
Fantastic. Thanks a lot, Miguel. Okay, so now that we've defined um, very well the context which we find ourselves in this digital world of work, let's take a look at different strategies and solutions that use data to better understand their workplace climate. So actual companies that do it. And an example that comes to my mind, at least, and this is a bit of a shameless plug, but Nailed, the company I work for, is, as I said, a company that offers an employee engagement platform. And how they evaluate the employee engagement is through different metrics, which are calculated through different, surveys and questions and one-on-one meetings, which happen through the app. So all of those features come together to create a set of metrics that admins and HR departments and people in culture can use to really understand the situation of employee engagement in their teams or in their departments or in their companies. So an outsider, can learn from this and kind of just design their own metrics, maybe, or there's many different ways to collect that data, but the way to analyze it for the engagement to make those metrics is what's important here. So what do you think, Miguel?
Yeah, there is nailed it. Make a really nice job, and actually, I will mention on the best practice. It's not a really best practice. I want to share with the audience some ideas about what is this mix of data and information, and how we can actually create insight. That's, as you mentioned, to create a good insight in order to understand better the workplace, the climate, the motivations, the engagement, the attrition rate. There's thousands of different use that we can use on data. And let me share some ideas with you guys.
Please go ahead.
Okay, if I can share my screen over here. Okay, here you find some before going into what data we use. I usually, in my classes, Nassim was one of my students a couple of years ago. I usually use this funnel, effective funnel, just to find out where we are in this data and HR data. So we we do have on companies a lot of data, and there's more volume, more velocity, and more variety that never before. Not only because we have the socio demographic data of our employees, because we have the digital fingerprint. that they do in our system and outside our system. And so we have a lot of data, but in order to really have some value, get some value for them, we need to put it in context, and that's when we get information. And then the individual factor, motivation, skills, opportunity, the team factors also are really important, collaboration and leadership cohesion. So this we need to get information. This usually we get it from the manager, but there is also different ways that we can get this. We start to get data and put it in a context. A survey, for example, is something that you get the data and you put it in context, you have information. But this is not really the most valuable information that we have. If we want to create knowledge, we need to put it in. We need to add some adjustment. We need to have some experience, and this experience and adjustment is not that in the people, not only in the people, is on the organizational factor like climate, like culture, processes, and performance. This actually create why this thing happens. Why myself as an employee has some appraisal at some point of my career, but this appraisal is connected with the situation of the company, with the situation of my department, with the situation of my processes, maybe because I'm getting married or not. There's other data that we need to put onto analysis in order to really get to the action, to the data that give us action in productivity, in organizational results, in financial results that we are looking. This is what we are looking for. So in order to do that, you need to get on the human resource information system, on the LMS, on the social media, on the performance management and the surveys and the public data from outside the organization. You need to mix all this data. And that's why some of the sample I bring to this conversation I think that they are interesting because they mix all of this. So my first advice is that we need to go through effectively through this funnel in order to really find the right data and the right information that we need. Some on the talent acquisition, for example, we found really interesting Cisco how they define for what really is an scarcity right now. That is the IT talent, people with IT skills. This is critical in all industry, and right now you find that they found using the analytics of the data that they have, statistical internal data and external data, they found out what the top skills and what is the level of the skill they have, what is the families, what is the best areas or zones that they can find this talent. So they create this internal marketplace. The IT sourcing is right now a really hot area on investment from the VCs, and also in attractiveness by the user, because and here you will find there is a lot of companies fighting of how to create this IT sourcing, this talent platform that actually will help us to find the right on-demand work, on-demand employees. So this is a case that we found here, that this internal data, external data getting together are fine with a taxonomy, with some rules, how we can find the right talent at the right moment in order to, for example, to create this on-demand workforce. This on-demand workforce that we are really used on the low blue collars like Uber or Glovo. They will be higher in the white collar and with Malt and another type of marketplaces. And I see that this type of tool will be useful also inside the company in order to get data to hire and to find this on-demand workforce. So on the talent acquisition, there is a couple of really interesting examples of how companies are mixing this information and getting this data from internal and external and mixing together in order to find the right talent that they need. If you go to other really classical one, it was like 6 years ago, but it's still on trend, is the Google Oxygen project that they found out what is the best characteristics and the worst characteristic of the manager, because when Google start to get data onto why we hire this type of people, why we hire people with this type of characteristics, they find out that at the end of the day, when the people really are working and have performance, they have different characteristics than the one they are looking for. So they change the talent acquisition based on the data they get from the analysis of the best and the worst managers, and they find out this best manager characteristic that they are open, and you will see on this YouTube video, as you just put Google or Oxygen project, you will find why they get these 8 characteristics of the manager based on data, not based on the code, not based on my idea about the ideal manager, not this real information. Actually, that they can link the causation and the correlation of the why these people thrive and have a very good results on this company based on this characteristic. No, so a good manager is a good coach, is empower the team, is a good communicator, and they actually demonstrate that. And so this is really interesting. Also, this is a really interesting project to see, and it's also shareable. I mean, you can find it everything on the Google on Google on the rework page. And
if you don't mind me, sorry, if you don't mind me jumping in,
yeah,
while we're on
sure.
the topic of talent acquisition, there's also this company called Witty Works, who's currently like still a very small startup, but they have they're using an AI algorithm along with some machine learning to to try to remove bias from the recruitment process, so that the talent that comes in is inherently diverse and it's inclusive. Like the recruitment process is more inclusive. So as you said earlier, they kind of went through that funnel by just gathering data on what does diversity and inclusion mean and transforming it into information, and then knowledge, and then taking action by using their algorithms to make sure that any bias that could come from the managers is completely removed when the recruitment process happens. So I just wanted to give this little parenthesis.
Yeah. No, that's
This
true.
is very
That's
interesting.
actually that's this is a good practice, and also a really risky practice, because some of the companies that use an AI for recruitment find out that the algorithm is making wrong decisions, not getting people, because if you just give some data to the algorithm, and the algorithm believe that this is the whole data, so they will lose for people like this. And not for diversity, as you mentioned. That is a really important thing. Actually, the European Union 3 months ago start to create the first law about how to use AI with ethic. And one of the user cases that they are think that they are really red one, I mean, really important, that have to be under and scrutinized and analyzed, is the recruitment process. So recruitment will be one of the red alerts if you want to use it in your company, or you sell it some type of software. So you have to comply with the new regulation that the European Union is right now on the process of being approved. So it will take maybe 2 years, but you can find out now the reglamento, the law, is already published, and it's really interesting, because this is something that in HR, like we have like 3 cases that are really high risk. So the one is, as you say, sourcing and screening candidates. The other one is how the promotion process, and how to handle with people with disabilities, and so on. And I don't remember the third one, but it was like I don't remember that. But is when you use AI and when you use algorithms to make this type of decision that have a lot of implications on people, you have to be completely sure that the algorithm is clear and is working the right way, and a little bit more, is ethical, is built on something that makes sense for humanity. So that means that they have to be open. It can be a black box anymore. It had to be the final decision had to be made by a person, and so on. So really interesting new rules and new compliance that will come in the near future for this. Also, engagement and attrition, that's something that a lot of companies are looking for, how we can actually find out solutions for predict employee burnout. And imagine how important is this on his hybrid post COVID or whatever you want to call it, situation. And actually, there is a lot of there is a rise of the medical and psychological aid for employees, and this burnout. This is something that we found out in a project. I think it was another big company that they find out with the research of a university that these four indicators of burnout, that is excessive collaboration. So if you have too much emails to answer and too many network to go through, compare with the average, is some indicators of burnout. They ineffective line managers as a gatekeeper, and the pure work-life balance, and the lack of focused working time. So number of emails sent per hours is an indicator of that. So it's fine how you this putting together this data. You can predict that someone is getting into the burnout funnel, so you need to save this employee from that, or you can give them some advice or some recommendations in order to not to get too deep onto these problems. So that's another really nice example. In the training, in training and learning, there is a lot of from Watershed. I took these two examples. Caterpillar, they are creating with with a concrete technology that help to track what the user do in different places, not only in the LMS, but in all parts of the organization. They can track all different type of learning events, so you can actually have some information from some glimpse for what the user is really learning and applying. That is the most important thing. So imagine that we will have some recommendation of, I don't want you, Nasina, you better don't go to this course because you will applying only 30%. So in advance, we know how much you will be applying based on your job requirement, based on your profile, based on different things. So they can get it together. And this learning record store technology also is really a promising one. It's an old one, but it's right now a very promising one, because you can actually track a lot of things happens on the learning record store through the API of Speeding API. That is the technology that they use behind of that. On employee experience, I found this really interesting. This is a bank, EBC, and you can find it on the employee experience report, global report and best practice. And this actually create an app that is called Up Your Service. That is a battle. It's something that you go for anything that you need to this app, and they help you on the processes, on the admin stuff. And the app is a connector of the different system of the company, and they connect. But the funny thing, or the unique thing about this case, is that they make it in the 20-second rule. 20-second rule means if you can't do it on 20 seconds, you don't do it anymore. So you need to they rethink all the processes. For example, asking for a pay leave. It's impossible to make it in 20 seconds, they say. And then they find another way to do it. Is just make a photograph and send it to the HR, and the HR will respond. You made it in less than 20 seconds. That's the right way to do it. So then another example is giving feedback to a colleague. See, people tell to the KBC team that I am not interested in logging into a platform or success factor to give feedback. So I simply send an email, I send message to the Up Your Service, and then this will deal with all the admin stuff of the different platform. So this is a new idea. This is something to put on the top of the different systems, something really, really usable and use with a very good user experience for the learner, for the employee, so the employee can have one only place to ask for services. So, and this is again based on data. They get the data and they connect the data, so the user can actually go through that data once and again. On the workplace, we need to mention Viva. Viva is I think it's 6 months ago they launched Viva, and you find there an analytic model just building on the software. So we will be getting used to this type of question. Is there a relationship between employee well-being and collaboration? So you can actually look for the data to correlate these two things. Or if you're using Viva, they tell you every week, I think, how long you stay on team on meetings, how a number of the emails you answer, how all this data is tracked and presented to you, so you can take your decisions. And actually you can be anonymized data, so you can compare that with other data of other employees, so you can get some ideas and some thought about how to use this on the workplace. So this is another use of some platform that is partly HR platform, but it's not 100% an HR platform, but they are using this type of solution to get the data and nailed it. That I think is really also a very good best practice of how to actually get insight from NPS, pulse surveys, one-to-one meetings, recognition. There is so many different things, so many different methodologies right now. But the most important thing is how to get all this data and put it together in a really visualized, simple way, because we don't have time to actually go into the really detail. We need this snapshot, this information that actually help us. We don't have time to go through all the information and get the analysis. So that's why creating these interfaces between data, HR data, and decisions, that will be, I think, a solution in the near future that will be really helping how to go through this new hybrid workplace that we are living.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Miguel, for all of these examples. I think it was very insightful. It seems like we have a couple of questions, so let's get to those. So first, Sarah says, I've never worked with people analytics and I don't have that much confidence using employee data. How would you recommend for me to start?
Well, the best thing to start is to start with the question you want to answer. What is the business problem that you have, that your company has? I mean, is that really something that we can help that we can help with the analysis of the data? Imagine that you say, okay, I have really bad figures on I don't know, sales, on sales. Getting data from or getting sales from this team or this employee burnt out. So try to find a problem, not a data. Once you find a problem that you can focus, then you can go through the different stages. First, where is how we can solve this with data. If you have a problem in Asia, probably you have a solution right away in your mind, because we are an expert. If not, there is some expert around that it will tell you, okay, you will do this and that. Okay, but how we can find another answer using data, not the high pay option of someone who is really experienced on that. And from there, you need to find out what is this data on your company. If the data is something that you can find, or if you don't have the data, go and build it. You can ask for that data. You can make surveys. You can ask from different things, so you can actually create the data for try to solve that. And then you do the hypothesis, and then you test it if you are doing this on the right way.
Amazing. Thank you very much. And if I could add anything to that, is that you don't have to instantly start using a crazy AI tool or some machine learning algorithm. You can start simple, just send a survey to your team or just go and ask them some questions and collect their answers.
Exactly.
That can be your first data,
And then you create your hypothesis, and then from there, you can go to these very complicated things.
Yeah. And the second question, awesome session. Will it record? Oh, that has already been answered by a host. Thank you, though, for saying awesome session. Okay. If anyone has any more questions, please go ahead. Otherwise, I think this will close the session. And before we go, I'd just like to share a couple of takeaways, which I think are general to everything we discussed today. So firstly, organizations need to adapt and be careful not to get overwhelmed by the data they collect, which, we discussed earlier. There's just so much data and just not enough knowledge of what to do with it. And what I think is more important, there are many ways to understand and use your data, but you have to choose the best one for your organization. because not every tool will work for every organization. So you really have to know what your problem is and how you want to answer it, and then choose the best manner or tool to approach it. And with that, I think we can close the presentation and the discussion. Thank you all for attending this webinar. Sorry for going 9 minutes over time. But yes, a recording of the presentation will be shared afterwards via email tomorrow to everyone who attended. And yeah, once again, thank you, Miguel, for coming on as a speaker and sharing all these insights. And well, we hope to see you in another webinar very soon, everyone.
Okay, thank you very much, Nassim. Thank you all. It's a pleasure to be here with you sharing these ideas. Good work, guys.